Today we're going to go over some of the reasons a buyer will back out of contract, and we're going to do that right now. One of the number one reasons a buyer will back out of contract is buyer's remorse. They either, say you had a bidding war, and they bid probably a few $1,000s more than they thought they should have, just to win. And then they decide, it's not worth it. And they just back out. Another reason is they just weren't ready to buy a house. It was just not their time. They thought they were. Once they made a purchase agreement, they just said, oh man, okay, this is for real now. And they just backed out. They got scared. You try not to deal with clients as a buyer's agent who will do that. You hope that they're ready to buy, but a lot of times they're not. So it could be just that simple. Another reason is the inspections. If you get a bad inspection, the buyers may back out completely instead of putting in a request for repairs. But you know, there's could be some real problems with your house that you didn't know about. There could be a foundation problem, a roof problem. There could be termite damage, termites, major systems like HVAC not working. Of course, you would have known about that, or it underperforming, or it being very old and about to break down. So those are some of the reasons that it happens that they look at the inspection. But there's other reasons where you look at the home inspectors are looking for all the ugly in a house. They aren't looking for what you look for. You walk in, you go, oh, the rooms are big, oh, it's an open floor plan. They look for all the ugly because that's what their job is, basically. So when you get a report that has a bunch of stuff on it that says, oh, there's cracks in the stucco, there's not going to be many houses with stucco that don't have cracks. No anti-siphon device on the hose bib. Well, that's, sometimes I don't even know what those things are for. But you go down to Home Depot and you buy one of those and you got that taken care of. Clogged gutters. If that's your only problems, that's a great house. But it could scare somebody who's never owned a house before and never had to take care of that stuff. Unclog the gutters, unclog the downspouts. Go down to Home Depot or Lowe's and buy a anti-siphon thing for the hose. Just stuff like that. The stucco cracks, man, there's not stucco that doesn't crack. If there is, let me know about it in the comments because I'd like to see that. Another reason is the appraisal. If that appraisal comes in lower than expected, there's a problem. And a lot of times the seller just recognizes that that's what they've got to live with now. Even though your CMA was solid, comparative market analysis was solid, the appraisal came in a little bit lower. Now you can present your results of your CMA to the appraiser and see if they'll make adjustments to their appraisal. That is usually not going to happen. They will talk to you, but they usually won't change your appraisal. The appraisal, I've seen it happen where they didn't know that the solar was purchased and it is paid for, and so they didn't put it as a benefit to the house. And then once you told them that, they did put it as a benefit and an addition to the value of the house. So it's very rare that an appraiser will change their appraisal. What's not so rare is the buyer saying, man, I really want that house. I know the appraisal is what it is, but it has some things in it that I like so much I'm willing to go halfway. I had one that we were in contract for $347,000, and that's just great marketing on the part of the real estate agent, just to tell you the truth. And also it was a beautiful house. And the appraisal was $333,000. That's a big gap to make up, but we ended up settling at $340,000. The seller came down a little bit, the buyer came up a little bit, and they have to come up with cash, and cash that they can prove is theirs because the bank's not going to accept anything else. And we made it work. So the appraisal is not going to absolutely kill a deal, But if it's a low appraisal and you can't come to an agreement, you just move on. But seller, I'll tell you, beware. Your next person's going to probably be advised of that appraisal, depending on the type of loan it was, because sometimes the loans, the appraisal sticks with the house for about 6 months. So the next one is the loan rejection. Man, you get in, what is it, 21 days to remove the loan contingency? So you get all the way into it, 21 days into it, and you find out there was a bad pre-approval. The bank just didn't do the job. They didn't send it through underwriting before, or the loan officer didn't send it through underwriting before. And, oh, God, man, that's terrible, but that's what you got to live with, The buyer went out and bought something on credit. So he's like, oh, we need new furniture, and we need a new truck to be able to move. And they go out and they buy all this stuff on credit, not realizing, which they should, realizing that it's going to ruin their debt-to-income ratio. It's going to ruin their ability to buy the house. So they got a nice truck, a nice couch, and a nice TV, but they're going to have to live in that truck because they're not going to be able to get your house. Or something as terrible as them losing their job in the middle of the transaction. That could happen. So be ready for that. And the last one is the contingency to sell their house fails. Say they buy your house contingent on selling their house, and someone backs out of buying their house. Now, a lot of times you can hold that together and give them some grace and let them know that you'll wait for them to sell their house to another buyer. Contingencies are hard to work with. We've done one where there's 5 legs on the contingency. There are 5 separate sales, and each one is contingent on the other one selling. And it all came together fine. You do sometimes where there's 1 leg on the contingency, and it just gets messed up. It's, sometimes when that's your offer and that's your best offer, you got to take it. But a lot of times, we'd rather not. You look into them real well, and you make sure that their asking price, if they're not in escrow, you make sure their asking price is reasonable. I've had contingency offers where the person making the offer with the couple is different than the person that's selling their house. The realtor that's selling their house. That's not going to be accepted because there's got to be some skin in the game. And a realtor that's selling their house but not part of them buying another house just isn't going to make any sense to me. Now, if the house is in escrow, it's like, that's great, but you also want to contact that lender for that escrow and make sure that's solid. You want to make sure as much as you can that deal that you're accepting a contingency on is solid, is going to be a good deal and is going to go through. Most of the times you could put a pretty good prediction on that before you accept the offer. You can talk to enough people and you can find out enough things that you're willing to accept the contingent offer. Like I said, it goes good. Most of the contingent offers we've done have gone very well. Every once in a while it'll fall out. Sometimes you give grace, sometimes you just bump out. The reason you don't want an offer to fall out, the reason you want to take care of most of these issues and make an offer not fall out. The reason you want to accept an offer from someone you believe is going to go through with the offer is not just that you want to sell a house, but once your house goes back on the market after it's been pending, it's stigmatized. So people think, well, what's wrong with it? Why did it fall out? And it's the simple explanation, except for the inspections, which now you've got to disclose what the problems were. Except for those, it's pretty clean. You just say, hey, the buyer lost their job, and that's pretty simple. The contingency on their house didn't go through. Their house sale didn't go through. So you can unstigmatize your house, but it's something that everybody looks at. They ask, "Well, geez, this is not on. This was pending, and now it's not. What's the problem?" And other than the inspections, the problem wasn't the seller. So you just got to inform people, but it's just another thing you have to inform them. And it's another thing that they're going to want to look at and say, oh, let's offer them a little bit lower. No, we're not going to take any lower. Sorry. Anyway, that's it. Have a great day.